Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SPL Book Talks. This week, we are discussing some Halloween-themed movies, and I'm going to start us off with a movie that's rated PG. It's called Hotel Transylvania. It is about Count Dracula and his daughter, whose name is Mavis. Count Dracula's voice is done by, I believe, it's Adam Sandler. And Count Dracula, creates a hotel for monsters because they are actually afraid of humans, which is kind of a fun little twist. And he doesn't want his daughter Mavis to go out into the world because he's afraid that something bad will happen to her. So he does everything that he possibly can to convince her that humans are bad. And it is her 118th birthday, I think it is. So he puts on this huge party at the hotel where all of these monsters come. And lo and behold, this human shows up. They've never had a human show up to the hotel, and he's trying to cover it up because he doesn't want the other monsters to leave. He's always advertised it as being like a sanctuary for them where they can be themselves. So it's a really fun movie. I just rewatched it recently. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I feel like every time you watch it, you find something new hidden in there that's funny. Like each time you watch it, it's worth watching over again, even if you've already seen it. It's really good.
That sounds really good. I've never watched that movie. I love the idea that it's, reversed with the monsters being afraid of the humans kind of thing. That's really funny.
Yeah, it's cute.
I was gonna say, I think this movie came out. It came out when I was like kind of younger. I don't know. It came out a few years ago, and it was a good movie to watch like as a family because it was funny and sweet, and we still in the movie like Dracula goes like, I don't say blah blah blah, and we still say that like regularly to each other as a family. And it's just it's a really cute, funny little movie.
Yeah. Plus, my brother will watch anything with Adam Sandler in it. So,
Yeah, he's always funny. I also think that a lot of kids' movies, and this one sounds like it, like you said, you have to go back and rewatch you keep finding other things in it. I think some of the best kids' movies have those kind of elements in it where, especially for the adult side of it, you find the funny things that the kids don't really get. It's kind of over their head, but the adults usually can get it. So I just think those are the best kind of movies. So it sounds like a great movie. I'm gonna have to watch it. Awesome. So Barbara, I think you're our next up.
So I picked Halloweentown. I don't have it with me because we didn't have it at the library, but we do have all of the sequels. There are 4 Halloweentown movies, and they're all pretty good. But Halloweentown is about this family, and this family doesn't do anything on Halloween. They don't talk about magic ever because it's stupid, and kids shouldn't learn about magic because it's stupid, and it just gives you like bad ideas about the world. But then one day their grandma shows up for Halloween, and she tells them about this place called Halloweentown. And they're all like, whoa, this place sounds magical, like monsters just walking around doing their thing. That is so cool. We've never heard of stuff like this before. And of course the mom is really mad because she hates Halloween and magic and all that. And the oldest daughter, I forget her name, I think it starts with an M, but she is turning this is her 13th Halloween, and she overhears the grandma and the mom talking about how if she doesn't start her witch training now, then she'll lose her powers forever. And she's never even heard about witches or anything like that. So she decides that she's going to follow her grandma back home on the bus, and it leads to Halloweentown because her family's witches. And it's just a fun, cute little story. And she finds out that her family like has to fight this darkness that is going to ruin Halloweentown. And it's just such a cute little movie. And it's a really good family movie. It's really laid back. And there's a lot of good like lessons in it. It's really cute.
This is another one I've never seen before, believe it or not. So it sounds good though. I know I've heard great things about it. People have talked about it in the last few years. I've heard more about it than I ever had. I don't know what year it came out. You don't know either, Barbara?
1998, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. That's probably why I hadn't heard of it. So no, it sounds great. Sounds like a good kids movie. The not liking magic thing reminded me of Harry Potter and all of that. It just gave me that kind of sense of how people, think about the magic in Harry Potter or something, how it's terrible. That sounds fun. Sounds like another good family kids movie. All right, so Megan, I think you're up next.
Okay, so I think this is one of the most popular this time of year. This is Hocus Pocus. This actually came out when I think I was 7, and I didn't see it for years, but now I watch it every year. So basically, it starts out in 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts during the witch trials. And there's 3 sisters, the Sanderson sisters, played by Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker. And basically they're bad witches, and they suck the lives out of children to make themselves younger. They're trying to make themselves immortal. And in the beginning, we're in the 1600s, the brother of one of the victims, he catches them doing this, and they're actually sucking the life out of his little sister. And he's not able to stop them, but when they catch him, they put a spell on him to make him immortal and make him into a cat, so that he is always having to remember that he didn't save his little sister. And so he's just kind of hanging around Salem as a cat. And then they also, before they are hanged, they cast a spell on a candle at their house, so that if a virgin lights this candle in their cottage on Halloween night, they will be resurrected. So that's the beginning. And then we move forward 300 years, and we're in 1993. And we're still in Salem. We see a teenager, Max, who's new to Salem, and he doesn't believe in witches or any of that. So of course, on Halloween night, he ends up with his sister and his friend and lights the candle because he doesn't believe in it. Despite the fact that the cat is there trying to stop them, he's still alive. And of course, the witches come back. So they basically are going to try to suck the lives out of all the children of Salem so that they can stay alive forever. And basically the movie is the kids trying to stop them, along with the cat, trying to stop them from basically killing everyone in Salem. And this movie has become like a cult classic at this point, especially with my generation. It came out when we were kids, and it's huge with people I would say around my age. And what's really cool about it is they did tape a lot of it in Salem, and I actually went there, and you can see a lot of the places they taped it. It's really neat. Even the beginning, which is in the 1600s, they have like a living history museum, and they taped the beginning of the movie there. So there's a lot of different locations in Salem that you can go to where they shot the movie. But yeah, it's fun. It's not really scary or anything, but it's a fun one. I was always obsessed with the witch trials when I was little, so I think that's probably why I got so into this movie. But it's good. It's a good one.
That sounds great. I keep getting in trouble for not seeing this movie.
I know.
I know you're all mad at me because I haven't watched it yet. But I will. It's that season, so I will watch it. And I love the connection with the Salem witch trials because I too was kind of obsessed with that that part of history. It's one of the reasons I think I like The Crucible, the play, so much, because it's all about the witch trials. So, but obviously this is a little lighter take on some of the stuff. But yeah, that sounds good. You other girls, I'm sure, have comments because you've seen it and you like it.
So one of the things that I really liked about that movie was the Sanderson sisters and how like they're very eccentric and
Yes.
comical in their characters, and I think that's part of the reason why the movie became such a classic, because they do such an excellent job in their acting. It's really funny. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it.
For a kids movie, the acting is like superb. Like even from the child actors, it is a really well done movie, and it was produced and directed fantastically. And I really like when I found out, Colleen, that you hadn't watched it, I was like so shocked because like you really do seem like one of the people that like dresses up as the Sanderson sisters for Halloween, like all of October. Hocus Pocus, like that's what you seem like. And so when you told me you hadn't seen it, I was like, how?
Okay, so I'll go next. We'll start to do something a little scarier. I'm reviewing The Lost Boys. This is one of my favorite little vampire movies from quite a ways back, 1987. So vampires are kind of a thing for me. This is it's sort of funny. Well, it has some really funny parts in it, but it also has some very serious and kind of horrifying moments in it too, because it really does deal with vampires and how horrifying they can be. But it's about a family who moves to a California town, and they discover that there are vampires in town, and one of them tries to turn the older son, who Jason Patrick, he's the actor. Kiefer Sutherland is the lead or the main actor of the vampires, of the young boys, and they're all very cool looking. They're all wearing leather jackets. They all ride motorcycles. They're really cool vampires. So why wouldn't you want to be part of them, is kind of the way I think Jason Patrick's character is, because he's new in town. He wants to be accepted. These seem like cool people. So he gets kind of drawn into it, and of course realizes that it's a little more serious and scary than he anticipated. It's not really what he signed up for. But as part of that, he falls in love with, of course, one of the girls who hangs out with them, who seems to be Kiefer Sutherland's girlfriend, sort of. He kind of, thinks she's his anyway. But she's not turned as a vampire yet. And so in the end, they're trying to find who is the head vampire, because, if you kill the head vampire, all of the vampires that he turned will, turn back to human, or they'll die. So, so the other part of the story is his younger brother, played by Corey Haim, I believe, who is hilarious. He's a really funny little kid. He's, at this point, he was probably 13 or something. He finds a job in a comic book store, and he loves comic books, and he finds these two other boys to hang out with. They're called the Frog Brothers, and they're vampire killers. And, these are kids who are like 13, but they take it very seriously because there's a lot of vampires in this town. And of course, at this point, you're still not sure that's true, but they're very funny about it. And in the end, of course, they do find the head vampire. Turns out it's the guy who owns the comic book store who is dating their mother now. So it all turns out well. And of course they get the head vampire and they kill him. But it's just very funny in a lot of ways. I know that doesn't seem like it would be funny, but the young boys make it very funny. And then the older boy, Jason Patrick's character, it's the more serious and has the romance and all of that. But it's a very cool movie, and I recommend it to anybody, especially if you like vampires or that kind of genre. It's a great movie. It's fun. It's not very scary. There's a few moments of gore and stuff, but not anything like the slasher movies that people go to nowadays. It's not Friday the 13th. It's not Halloween. It's not any of those. So yeah, so I highly recommend it. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. Has anybody seen it? Probably not, because it's so old for you.
Oh, this reminds me a lot, the way that you described it, it reminded me, sorry, it reminded me a lot of the movie that came out kind of recently in the past few years. Because it's kind of a scary movie with, like, you know, there's a scary trope, scary things going on, but the little boys are just hilarious. So it kind of reminded me of that. So I hope it's kind of like that. It sounds fun. I'll probably watch it.
I recommend it. I think you should. I mean, the vampires are very cool. So you want to be part of them, but then you see the horrible side of them and you realize, no, I don't want to be part of them. But Kiefer Sutherland is really good as the kind of evil vampire leader of the pack of boys. That I say boys, they're like young men, and they're all good looking, it makes it very appealing until you realize what the darker side of being a vampire is. So and Jamie Gertz, who plays the girlfriend, I just am in love with her. I always loved her because she has this beautiful black wavy hair that's very long. I was always jealous and wanted to look like her. So okay, so next I think is Justine. You're gonna take us out with a fun one.
I am. So the movie that I'm reviewing is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I'm talking about like the 1975 one, because I know there's a newer one with Laverne Cox and it's probably good, but I'm talking about the original. So this movie, you can get it in our system. There are a few copies and you can stream it on Hulu. Very exciting because they don't play it on regular TV a lot. So it's about this couple named Brad and Janet who just got engaged. So they're all like happy and in love and stuff. And one night they're driving in the middle of a terrible thunderstorm and their car breaks down and they don't know where to go and they have to go get help. So then of course, Brad's like, oh, we just passed a super creepy castle a couple miles back. Why don't we go there and ask for help, obviously. So at first he wants to go alone, but then Janet is like, no, I'm coming with you, Brad. So they go up to this castle and they knock on the door and this super creepy servant named Riff Raff answers the door. And for a second, Janet just thinks that they're going to be killed, like immediately. So he invites them inside, but they're in the middle of this huge dance party because this is also a musical, because why wouldn't it be? And then Dr. Frankenfurter, the mastermind, pops out and sings a bunch of songs, and then he shows them that he's been creating a human life in his super weird laboratory, and he brings this guy to life, and he's like this super ripped blonde guy with a tan, and he has like a gold Speedo on, and his name is Rocky, and Dr. Frankenfurter created him to fall in love with him, basically. So then as the night goes on, things get a little weird. There's a big fight with one of the other people that Dr. Frankenfurter created, whose name was Eddie, and he creates the people to fall in love with him, but Eddie was in love with one of Dr. Frankenfurter's servants. So then Dr. Frank gets super jealous and kills Eddie with an ice pick. So that's weird. And then Rocky and Janet start like hanging out more and liking each other. So then Dr. Frank gets super jealous and he like chases Janet all through the house, and it's kind of weird. And then Dr. Everett Scott shows up and he's like, I think Brad and Janet are spies. And then they're like, no, we're not. And then Dr. Frankenfurter makes them this nice dinner and they all sit down and boom, it's Eddie that they've been eating. So, and then the ending is so weird, and I don't want to spoil it or anything, but there's a whole swimming pool scene and they're singing the whole time and there's like a cabaret, and it's very confusing and a little bit creepy all the time, but I really like it. And I first saw this movie a couple years ago because the Hamilton movie theater used to do a midnight showing, and you could dress up as the characters and you could bring props. into the theater and like scream stuff at the screen while the movie was playing. So going to those really made it like a favorite for me. And I guess it's not necessarily Halloween related, but it is brought up more around this time of year. So yeah, it's pretty creepy, pretty sexual, but it's awesome.
Yeah, this is definitely a cult classic. This was popular when I was in college for sure. And yeah, there were lots of like midnight showings and people dressing up and bringing props and yelling at the screen and singing along. And, you know, I think that's what made it part of what made it such a great movie in the end. It is weird and a little bizarre, and you might go, well, what is the point of this? But it's just fun, I think. And Tim Curry as what's his name, Dr. Frankenfurter. I mean, he's just amazing. He's so
Yeah.
funny. And I think this was like Susan Sarandon's one of her first movies, right? Or at least first like major type movies.
Yeah, I think
She
so.
played Janet. So
The first time I watched this movie, I found out about it from like someone on the school bus or something. And I was 12 and I pirated it online, and I was not expecting what I got at all. I thought it was going to be like a like Phantom of the Opera type stuff. No, not at all. But it's still really good. Yeah, it is such a like funny, kooky movie, and I love it.
and I think that's key. Watching it live, I think really helps make it. It just makes it a better movie in the sense of the community of people who come and dress up and all of that. I mean, the songs are pretty pop. They're just kind of they're what part of what made it popular, probably. I mean, Time Warp became like this song that, at least when I was in college, it was like it played every night when I was out. I mean, that was a big song. And of course, with Tim Curry's transvestite song, that was also at the time kind of shocking and scandalous, but really funny. And the way he does it is just amazing. So,
and he looks great.
He does, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. What year did that come out, Justine? Do you have that?
1975.
Wow. Okay. So it just shows you how, kind of what kind of staying power it has. Oh
That's
man.
one of the ones I'll always watch if I find it on,
Yeah.
And I think part of the thing with the songs is they're all catchy and they're all easy to learn, and everybody just learned them for the showings. And I think it's talk about a cult classic, it's like
Yeah.
all the traditions that people have with the showings and stuff, and what they bring and what they throw at the screen and what they yell and everything. So yeah. Plus I do love Tim Curry, especially after this one. I was like, oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So I thought we should talk about maybe a couple other movies just for since it's Halloween and there's so many to choose from. I just wanted to mention, if you haven't seen Psycho, the original Psycho from 1960 with Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh and a bunch of other people, I highly recommend that movie. I mean, if you want a creepy movie, this is it. And you may not, when you first start watching it, it's a black and white movie, which to me increases the creepiness. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be a creepy movie or anything scary or anything out of the ordinary, but it just slowly evolves into this creepy, horrifying thing. Because Anthony Hopkins or Anthony Perkins, excuse me, owns this hotel, and he lives in a big mansion that's right next to the hotel. So Janet Leigh is the main character who comes. She's working in the city. She ends up taking she becomes desperate for money for some reason, and I can't remember it right this moment, but she takes some money. They have a big investor come in who hands her a chunk of, like a big thing of money, and her boss says, "Go deposit this for me." Well, instead of depositing it, she takes it and she leaves town. And so she's got this money and she's feeling terribly guilty, and she's worried that the police are going to, find her. She stops at this hotel and meets this guy who owns the hotel, Anthony Perkins. He seems like a kind of a sweet guy, kind of has a young, innocent kind of a attitude about him. But he's a little creepy because he's all by himself and he wants her to, have dinner with him all, right there in the hotel. And so she does, and, things happen, but it turns out, he's a little more than just a creepy guy that owns a motel. He ends up killing her, and then, it evolves into more. I don't want to give it all away, even though I know it's an old movie and most people probably have seen it, but I highly recommend it because it has high creep factor, and it's a Hitchcock movie. So if you know Alfred Hitchcock's movies, they are a good sense of like impending doom. Like things start and they just get more and more and more, and suddenly you're in the middle of this horrifying thing. And that's the way this movie works, which is kind of genius when you're watching a film, because it evolves and it's so simple. It's a very simple film. There's not a lot of, there's no real gore in it. It's black and white. In fact, the scene that he kills her in, everyone probably knows the famous shower scene in Psycho. He comes in, but you never really see, well, for a lot of reasons, you don't really see him, and you don't really see the knife go into her skin ever. It's more of it just looks like that's what's happening. And then he just shows a scene of the water in the shower because it's still running, with the blood rolling, coming down and going into the drain. And the blood in the end, I remember watching making of Psycho, is really just chocolate syrup, because it's black and white. You don't need the color, you don't know, but it's amazing. And it's very simple. But that's what makes it so good, I think. So I highly recommend you watch that movie. It's great.
Right.
But,
I think
no, go ahead.
the music in that is what's a lot of the creep factor comes from the
Yeah.
music for me.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not overly gory or anything like a lot of movies now are, but
Mhm.
just that music. I mean, everybody knows what song I'm talking about, but not just that. The music throughout the movie is it's just so creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think music plays a huge part in scary movies in general. I mean, you think of like Jaws. I mean, that theme will ever live in your head once you've seen that movie and really gotten scared by that fish.
I watched it recently. It's a found footage film called Hell House. A found footage film is like what the Blair Witch Project, that movie was. That's like a found footage film. And it's set up like a documentary, which is horrifying because it feels so real. Like it feels like you're watching a documentary. And it's about this group of like, I think they're like college aged kids, and they go to upstate New York, and they buy this building, and they like have all these savings, and they're using all these savings to make like an awesome haunted house, and hopefully they're gonna like double their savings and blah blah blah. And it is, and they've done this before, like this is like their career. But the building that they bought, there's a bunch of stories about it, about how like throughout the years, like people will buy it, but then they end up committing suicide in the building, and like group suicides in the building. If there's like group, it's like horrifying. And then on the night of their haunted house, there's like a glitch in the system is what they call it. They called it a glitch in the system. Something happened, something went wrong. 15 people died in the basement of the haunted house, and nobody knows how. They just know that like they couldn't open the doors, the cameras went out, They couldn't do anything about it. They went back, they went in, 15 people were dead. And these college students like dipped, like, because they didn't know what to do. So they just left. So the documentary is interviewing people that were there on that night and might know what happened. They interview a girl that was an actor there, and it's like, it's scary. I'm not gonna like go into it, because a big part of the scary stuff is like finding out the like little details that like add into the paranormal activity of the whole event. But it's like, it really feels like you're watching a documentary, like this is real life. And the clips that they get, because the college students were like documenting it on a camera, so they use like footage that they took in the documentary, and it feels so real, and it is so spooky. I think I watched it on Amazon Prime, but if you have Shudder, there's like a horror movie streaming service now called Shudder. I'm sure it's on there too, or somewhere else, but it is really good.
Yep, that sounds very scary. Probably why I wouldn't watch it. But I'm not a big fan of horror, scary. Well, that kind of like the Blair Witch Project scares me to death. I've never watched the whole thing because the fact that it seems so real. I think the documentary fact of it, that element, just scary.
Yeah, I agree. I never really get scared by scary movies, and I never watched a found footage film before this, and like it like scared me. Like I was sitting there like curled up in a blanket, like like, because the music too, like it would just like, it would build up, and like you felt like you were about to die, and then it would just dissipate, and like nothing would happen, and it was horrifying. Like I was on the edge of my feet, edge of my seat, the entire movie. It was so good.
So the other movie that I would talk about is The Sixth Sense. I don't know if anyone's seen that. That's a pretty interesting movie. I wouldn't say that it's creepy necessarily, but it is. Well, it is. It has some creepy moments in it. But I watched it because everyone kept saying, well, Colleen, I know you don't like scary movies, but this one is really, it's not scary in this traditional sense of, gore and all of that kind of stuff. So I ended up watching it finally with my husband at home, when we could have the lights on and not have to worry about things. It has a really good twist in it. If you've not seen it, I don't want to give it away because that really is a big moment in the movie. But it's a little boy who's haunted by ghosts, and he keeps seeing things, and you can't figure out what's going on. It takes a long time to really figure it out. And I remember that moment when I figured it out, I was like, I know what's going on. And so it's really cool. I recommend it because of it's that kind of layered, brick upon brick of, this thing, and now it's this, and then it's this, and kind of the way Hitchcock does his movies. So I would recommend it because of that. So.
Is that the one where he's like, I can see dead people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a little boy, Haley Joel Osment. He was great in it, and he kept seeing ghosts and dead people basically, and his mother couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, and then he has this guy who's around him all the time too. I can't remember he's a doctor, I guess. He's a psychologist, and that's played by Bruce Willis. And so you're thinking, he's helping him get through this, and then there's a big twist. So it's really cool. Please watch it if you haven't. It's high quality, scary movie.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not one of those like slasher. I mean, not to sound bad, but it's more intellectual maybe than some of them, because it's not just to gross you out or creep you out. It actually has like a really good story, I think.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it, because I don't like slasher movies because of the fact that it just feels like it's killing for no reason, or it's just, gratuitous, graphic, gross deaths. And I don't want to watch those. But if it's got a great story and a good, like that makes me much more likely to watch it. So does anyone else have any other movies they want to recommend? Justine?
A couple years ago, I don't really watch like horror movies a lot, but I watched this one in the theaters. It was A Quiet Place. And the only reason I watched it is because it had John Krasinski, and I'm not even ashamed to admit it, okay? If he wasn't in it, I wouldn't have watched it. But it's about this family who is living in this post-apocalyptic world, and they are being hunted by these monsters who have like super hearing. So if you make even the tiniest noise, they will find you and like kill you. So this family has had to adapt to living without sound. And the father, played by John Krasinski, spends all of his time trying to find out how to kill these monsters. They have 2 kids. Their oldest is a daughter and she is deaf. So that kind of plays into all of it because you can't even really warn her when something's happening because she can't hear you. And then they have a younger son, and the wife, who is played by John Krasinski's real wife, Emily Blunt, is like 9 months pregnant in this movie. So then they have to figure out how are you supposed to give birth in a world where you have to be silent. And it's creepy. It was really moving. I cried at this stupid movie in the movie theaters because at the end there's this like super powerful scene, and it was like so emotional and so nice. And I cried in the movie theater, and my friends were like, you know, this is a horror movie, right? And I was like, yes, I do know that. The creepiest part is you don't really see the monsters that much, so it's kind of left up to your own imagination, which means that it's kind of as creepy as your brain can make it. Like you see them a little bit, but mostly you can't even see them because they're just like hiding in the trees and doing weird stuff. So I really liked it. And a personal part that was funny for me was, first of all, when you go watch this in the movie theaters, you can't really eat anything because there's no sound. So if you're chewing popcorn, someone's going to yell at you. So the whole movie theater is silent, and there's a super silent scene, and everyone's like paying really close attention. And then it cuts to this scene of the family at a waterfall. So the jump from completely silent to waterfall noise made everybody in the movie theater jump. And it's like just that part being scarier than the rest of the movie for us, like that shock, you know, from silent to like rushing water, was so funny. So yeah, I recommend it. It is kind of scary, but it's not gory. So, and it was really like well shot too, because I know a lot of horror movies, they have like that shaky footage and stuff. And I like that, but this was really well thought out, and you could really like form a connection with this family, and I really liked it.
I haven't seen this movie, but I remember when it came out, it was a really big deal in the deaf community because it was such a big movie, and the actress that plays the deaf daughter is deaf, and it's like a really good movie in that way that I heard. And it reminds me a little bit of a movie that came out a few years ago that was really popular, like everybody was talking about it, Bird Box, where it's kind of the opposite of that, where if you see the monster, you kill yourself. And it's like chaotic kind of movie, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I like that movie, so I'm sure I'll like this movie. I just haven't gotten around to watching it.
Yeah, we have it at the library on DVD. And going back to the thing, I read that the actors wanted to learn sign language so that they could communicate with the actress on set. And I thought that was really sweet because they used it in the movie, but they also requested to learn it off screen to like help her further. So that was really nice.
This is a movie that I think I would like to watch, even though it's scary, and I'm kind of scared of those kind of things. But the way you talk about it and the way I've heard others talk about it is, again, it's more of a the scariness is the anticipation of what's going to happen. And of course, when everything's silent, that just makes it even worse. It must ramp it up so much more.
It is really good. And the sequel was supposed to come out this year, but then they had to push it back. So it's scheduled to come out next year. So we'll see.
So this was great. I think we gave some people some good stuff. We got some family stuff and some scary stuff. Anything great for Halloween. So we hope you'll come check some of these out. We know we have some of these at the library, and some of them, I would guess that most of them are available through the 4-county system, even if we don't have them in Sherburne. So please come check them out. I know that they're all popular at this time of year because it's Halloween. So thanks again for listening, and we will see you next week when I think we're doing new audiobooks. So come back and see us. Thanks again. Bye, everyone.